Hey rockers, welcome back to the weekend and another video. It's been a minute. I've had company, been busy with friends and family, and just been keeping my hands full, man, which is a good thing. You know what they say, idle time is the something playground. Never mind. Hey man, I got a good one, kinda, going back to the year 1978 and the very first time I ever met a famous band. As a matter of fact, it's the first time I ever met any band. So I was 12 years old. It was the summer of 1978, August. Don't know the precise date, but I know it was August. The Heart of Illinois Fair in Peoria, Illinois is where this happened. And again, man, the Spinners is who I'm talking about. If you rock and roll aficionados and trivia geeks and, you know, people that like a lot of info about music, you're going to know that the Spinners were from Detroit, Michigan, and they were also known as the Detroit Spinners. That's a tongue twister almost. The Detroit Spinners. There you go. Remember how they used to say Detroit, and then people from there would say Detroit. So they had this emphasis on the D. Anyway, the Spinners, man, they formed in Detroit, Michigan. They were great and still are around today, although with no original members. But the Spinners, these guys were amazing rhythm and blues vocal group, meaning, you know, sometimes they would perform with a band kind of on the side, or, you know, even not even showing on stage. But these guys would sing, 5 of them, and dance and do their thing. Very choreographed, very old school, but above all, underneath all the smiles and hand clapping and, you know, finger snapping and all the dance moves and interacting with the crowd, the Spinners were killer, seasoned, very professional vocalists, man. These guys were killer, and I'm a big fan of the Spinners. Yeah, these guys were formed originally in 1954. They kind of, you know, did some changes, as a lot of bands will do when they are starting. But by the time 1961 rolled around, they had gone through a couple changes, and they named the band the Spinners, and that's when it stuck. 1961. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, if you're interested, in the year 2023, and they deserve it, man. And the National Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame in 2015. These guys, you know, wore matching outfits. They had like angelic harmony vocals going on, man, and a really cool, fun way of being part of the audience and making the audience feel comfortable, that kind of thing. The whole package. The Spinners were great, man. I used to hear these guys on the radio all the time back in the 70s and the early 80s. And of course, watching those great 70s music programs like the Midnight Special, Soul Train, American Bandstand. Those were like staples if you're a rock and roller back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And I was. And of course, I really enjoyed seeing the Spinners do their thing. And I loved all their hit songs that were on the radio. Yep. I gotta say, some of my guilty pleasures include a lot of radio-friendly pop music from the 60s and 70s. It's just good stuff, man, you know. But radio kind of killed a lot of that for us, didn't they? With their corporate ways. Guys in suits and ties programming our music, the same 20 songs every hour on the hour. Corporate guys in ties ruin radio with their power. Anyway, these guys were so killer, man. They had a lot of hit songs, too, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Some of their hits were the Rubber Band Man. Remember that one? That was a song that really exploded for those guys and made them really radio-friendly. Although the earlier hits were definitely, you know, they put them on the map, absolutely. Like Rubber Band Man was 1976. Could it be I'm falling in love? 1973, I'll be around. 1972, The Games People Play in 1975. And then they did a collaboration with the great Dionne Warwick in 1974. Then Came You. Yeah, that was with Dionne. What else did they do, man? I made a couple notes here. They did Working My Way Back to You, Babe. 1979 and on and on. And their last United States Hot 100 hit was a remake of Willie Nelson's Funny How Time Slips Away. And it's funny how I never heard that. Wow, okay. In 1983, they did release that tune, and they appeared on the Laverne and Shirley TV show as themselves in that same year. Yep, I'm a TV geek. Back in the 70s, I was glued to it. Up until about 83, 84, after the MTV thing started wearing off, I kind of stopped watching TV. And to this day, I gotta say, yep, like many of you, I'm addicted to YouTube, but I don't generally watch like mainstream television or anything like that. I try not to watch anything that's too newsy, just little doses, because man, we are oversaturated in this country and in this world with just a lot of propaganda, man. A lot of propaganda. I'm not on any side at all. I'm just saying it comes at you from every direction. It affects all of us. So you got to watch that TV with balance. But if it has rock and roll, watch more. What else, man? Some other things you might not know about the Spinners. They actually performed the title track to the cult film 1987 Spaceballs. You remember that one, right? Yep, the Spinners, they did the lead song. Moving on to my story, my friends. The night that I saw the Spinners, I was living in Peoria, Illinois, in a neighborhood called Rolling Acres, literally within walking distance of the Exposition Gardens Fairgrounds up on Northmore Road in Peoria. So I walked up to the fair. I wasn't even smoking weed at that point in my life. I hadn't drank any booze at that point. I was still a virgin. Yeah. But anyway, TMI, right? Sorry. Shut up, Moody. Shut up, Bloody, whoever you are. I get to the fair, and the way that I got into the fair was hopping the fence. I'd walk all the way around the fairgrounds into this neighborhood called Northmore Hills. I'd find this little trail behind this particular house, climb that fence, jump over, and run like hell because there was security patrolling the perimeter and the whole area around the fairgrounds, but only like one. So you just had to hope he was on the other side when you hopped the fence, or beat down time. They also had another area that had a big hole in the fence. So you'd go down another path behind another house, find this little hole, and if you didn't get through without any scratches, or if you got through without any scratches or any cuts, you weren't doing it right. No, because it was always kind of a death trap going through that damn fence. But I never paid to get in the fair, very rarely, because I went to every single show they had there in the late 70s and early 80s. So I couldn't afford that. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? As the funny saying goes. Moving on, man. Moving on. The night that I saw the Spinners, their lineup consisted of Henry Fambraw, baritone vocals, Billy Henderson, who had a winning smile, $1 million prize-winning smile. Billy Henderson was a pleasure to watch on stage. This guy, he just had it down, man. He was always smiling, giving people eye-to-eye contact, and just a really groovy guy. So Billy Henderson was the tenor baritone in the Spinners. Paris Jackson sang bass. And, of course, Bobby Smith and John Edwards were the lead tenors in the Spinners. Rest in peace to all those guys. Every one of the original Spinners have now departed this earthly realm and hopefully on to better places, right? I'm just so grateful I got to see this show. This was the first time in my life that I ever attempted to meet a rocker or a band. And I thought about it long and hard. I was like, I'm going to be right there within spitting distance of a band that I love. How come I can't meet them? So I had this little yellow notepad that was in like a plastic, like little flip kind of style. You flip open the cover, and there was like this big notepad about this thick with little square pieces of paper. And so I brought that, and I tucked it in my back pocket or wherever the hell I was wearing. Brought me an ink pen, and I thought, I'm going to meet them. I'm going to meet the Spinners tonight. Yeah. So I've been really acquainted with these guys, hearing them on the radio all the time, watching them on TV, and I even had some of their 7-inch records. I never had any records by the Spinners as far as the albums go, but I did have the 7-inch records. And later on, the best of the Spinners on CD, I believe. So this was great, man. It's summertime. I'm outside. My mother was super cool. She's the one that turned me on to rock and roll. But in our household, it was pretty strict. My mother was very cool, but very strict in certain ways. She just didn't want me to get involved in all the stuff that she knew what was going to be coming down later. And she tried real hard to keep her son in check. So I had a curfew of about 9 o'clock, I believe, on school nights. And it was later on weekends, but it was like, in the middle of the week. So my mom said, cool, go ahead and have fun, but be back by curfew. And I never violated that because my mother was cool. So I never wanted to, bum her out, worry her. That was the big thing, is the worries. I didn't want to worry my mom because, well, I'm a worrywart, and that's how she was too, unfortunately. But this night, my mom was dating a new guy because my parents were divorced in around when I was about 9 or 10. And then my mother ended up remarrying. But before she got remarried, she was dating a guy named Nova. like the car. Her and Nova were kind of hanging out at the house, and they were probably happy to have me gone for a while, I would imagine. Her being the age she was at the time, you know. She was probably, 20 years older than me. So my mom was maybe 32, I believe, at the time. I go to the fair. Get there. There's 2 shows. And the early show was like at 5 or 4 o'clock. And then they had an evening show at the grandstand that was maybe 6, 7 o'clock. I went to the evening show, the second show of the night, right? Place is freaking packed. Absolutely packed. That's back when people really appreciated diverse music and the Spinners had hit songs on the radio. The place was pretty much sold out. I was lucky. I was up in the first, like maybe 4th or 5th row, that close to where I could see these guys eye to eye if I wanted to. And I did get some direct eye contact from Billy Henderson at, certain times. Anyway, I'm enjoying the show. I'm looking around. I remember distinctly thinking, this is so awesome. Freedom, music, nature. I'm out here on the great outdoors and I'm with all these other people. Everyone is singing along to all these great hits. I'm 12 years old, man. It was awesome. Very awesome. I had my little pad in my hand and I just kept thinking in the back of my head, what am I going to do when the show's over? Am I going to walk around backstage? I can't do that. They had a security guard at either side of the stage. 2 ways to get in. No way to get in unless you had one of those VIP passes, which me, being a 12-year-old kid, no chance. I was like, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? And I waited around, of course, and I'll tell you what happened. It was cool. It was really cool watching these guys perform, watching the synchronicity, the choreographed dance moves, the matching outfits. These guys really knew how to work the crowd, man. It was really cool. Like I say, the place was completely packed. I remember singing along out loud and remembering that all the other people were too, so I didn't feel like weird or awkward singing out loud, which back then I was kind of shy, to be honest. But seeing everyone else singing, I was, and I'd never done that before at a show. And it was kind of cool, liberating, more freedom, freedom to be myself. The guys were like angels with their vocals, just amazing harmonies, the hand claps, the finger snaps. Watching them sing all these hits was cool, man. But after the show ended and the guys were done connecting with everyone, I just kind of hung out. And I saw people out in the crowd, picking up all the empty cups and cigarette packs and cigarette butts and garbage and, food wrappers and plates, paper plates, yeah. Get it out, Mr. Mess. Anyway, I start realizing, there's no way to meet these guys. And then I thought about it. Wait a minute. What about if I go under the stage? So I started scoping out the situation, and I remember being nervous, thinking, I hope no one sees me do this, and when can I do it? How will I do it? There's people working everywhere around here. Surely they're going to see some little white kid that's 12 years old that's, wearing husky, size husky pants. Remember those? Husky. That's what I wore. So I decided I was going to go underneath the stage, man. And I thought, that's a good idea. I'll just avoid the security guys. I will go under the stage. And once it got really cleared out, I started thinking, it's my chance right now. So I literally lifted up this banner that was saying, whoever was promoting the show or whatever, it was kind of on the stage, but hanging down over the bottom, covering up to where you would see the bottom of the stage. And I literally had about this much room, man, this much room to slide under the stage. And I remember thinking, spiders, bugs. And then I thought, wait a minute, they just made this grandstand for a temporary reason for the fair. It's probably got no bugs to worry about, because who wants to crawl around with a bunch of spiders under some dark area? But I figured, you know what, it's worth it, man. So I crawl underneath the trailer. It felt like an eternity, man. I'm like super spooked. I'm like, any minute now, someone's going to lift up that sign and go, get back out here, you size husky wearing little weirdo. But it didn't happen. And next thing you know, I slip out on the other side, and there's a couple people standing around like, holy shit, what's this kid doing here? And why is he under the stage? Little husky pants wearing size weirdo. Never mind. So there was a trailer there, and the door is wide open, and I hear dudes talking and laughing. And I thought, well, here's my chance, dude. So I walked up with my pen and my little autograph book in hand. I'm sweating bullets because I'm nervous, man. I've never done this before. I didn't know if they were going to throw me out, be nice to me, be mean to me, say, whatever. Well, it was very cool because those guys were super kind. Every one of them was sitting around with like a towel around his neck, like they maybe were just getting ready to get cleaned up. I think they looked like they might have showered perhaps. I don't know. But they were all sitting around with these white towels around them. They're all sweaty. And I got to tell you, man, the guys were very kind. Very nice to me. They were surprised to see me. Like I say, this little 12-year-old little white guy, bunch of legendary African-American dudes, you know, black dudes, man. And they're kind of thinking, yeah, this kid's all right, man. And I could tell they liked me. And they gave me a Coca-Cola. They were literally nice, man. They had all these drinks on ice. I don't know if they were drinking booze or beer or soda or water, but they were nice to this kid. And I got to say, I respect the hell out of the Spinners, man. Anyway, I'm going to get back to my story. Sorry, I've got ADHD. There's a video on this channel about living with ADHD if you look under the video section. Notice how when I start being more conscious that I talk slower? You can do that with the help of 4-part breathing, which I've been silently kind of trying to do as I'm sitting here. Because that ADHD ain't no joke, man. These guys are giving me a Coca-Cola, and then I pulled out my little autograph pad, and every one of them signed that autograph pad on a different page. So, like, there's 5 pages, right? Each one's little name on there. I was super excited. It's my first autograph, my first in-person experience with any kind of celebrity. I was really, really excited, man. I was on cloud 9, maybe cloud 10 and 11, too. So the guys talked to me for just maybe a couple of minutes. I was too nervous to say much, but I got my autographs. They gave me a Coca-Cola, kind of, you know, asked me who I was and sent me on my way. And then I realized, oh my God, it's like 9:30, 9:45, or it was about 45 minutes past my curfew. Mind you, I had never, ever come home late from curfew. If I did, it was like 5 minutes, you know. Like I say, man, I was always cool to my mom for the most part. But I got home late and I was kind of not caring. I'm thinking, man, I've got a legit reason to be late. I met some rock stars and I'm happy. So I go home and my mom and Nova are like, what the hell, man? It's like almost 10 o'clock. You're an hour late. And I pulled out that autograph book and all of a sudden I realized if I have a good enough reason, my mom's not going to be mad if I'm late for curfew, especially if I tell her that one of our favorite bands just signed my book. And she was stoked because being a fellow rocker and my biggest influence in rock and roll, she was just very happy and kind of living vicariously through me, which my mom did a lot in her life, which was cool. But back on track, she looked at my autographs and said, good job, son. You're late. That's okay. So I started thinking, I finally gotten freedom through rock and roll. And believe me, that wasn't the last time that I went and met bands at the fair, but it was the only time that I ever crawled under a stage to meet a band. Pretty trippy, man. And I got to break curfew. It was my first time at ever kind of severing that tie of, you know, be here on time. I had a lot of years to go before I got freed from those chains of bondage. But hey, man, here I am. Rest in peace to my mother. Rest in peace to the Spinners. I really want to ask you guys one favor. Will you please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already? It takes 1 second. It's free. And please, if you want to be notified of upcoming videos, hit the notifications symbol, I guess it's called. Leave a comment if you want. And also, right down below, you can click that little thumbs up and give me a thumbs up if you would. It helps my algorithm. That's really a real thing, guys. It honestly is. It helps your favorite YouTubers if you do those kind of things. I've got some more punk, rock, metal, outlaw country, curveball, and plain weird-ass stories coming up for you guys. I've had company for a while. Now I'm getting back to work part-time with a buddy of mine's business. But I'm going to never stop doing these videos until the internet goes down or until you guys all say, F off, moody, mess, husky, size-wearing little weirdo. Rock and roll, man. Cheers.